This should be a pretty quick and easy exercise about tables. Well, I was thinking of skipping over tables. We are going to skip over forms. But tables is a very journalistic element. Tables are best used as small chart-like groupings of usually numbers. And for example, they might show the changes in a budget over a year, or the tax rate and how it's changed, or comparing employment numbers between different counties, for instance. So when we have small groups of numbers that we want to present somewhat graphically online, a table is a good bet. Tables used to be used much more frequently for entire layout of sites. Before we had CSS and before it became so common and popular, tables were used to structure sites. But that's a very old-fashioned and greatly frowned upon way to lay out sites now, because tables don't do well at different sizes. A little table is fine because the page is not going to get that terribly small. But larger tables that would encompass entire pages break down when we try to make the screen different sizes. We like our pages to have the possibility to be more flexible now. So we only use tables in a similar way to what you're going to do in this exercise. And here is the exercise: project folder, root folder. There's nothing to download. You're just going to start another file from scratch, a blank file. And you should have read the chapter by now about tables. Here, there's a lot more tables than we're going to do, but here are some of the codes you're going to use. Table, we open and close the table around the entire thing. TR for table row, TH for table header, TD for table data. And there's something called col span. There's also something called row span, which we're not going to use, but you can read about in the text. And there's lots more about tables you can learn. I want you to make a table that looks like this. And you can print out this or look at this PDF, of course, on Moodle. What's going on here? There's a table around the whole thing, right? The whole thing is a table. This is a header here, right? Yes. This is also headers. So these are both table headers, groups of table headers. And then we have regular table data, but everything in tables is aligned in rows, 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 rows. So we're never going to type these numbers in order. We're going to type 2010, 10 million, 15 plus 15%. So that's how we're going to do it. And then once you do it, here's some information, some optional code you can use if you want, and then you go ahead and zip it and put it on Moodle. There's some hints there too. All right, so but you shouldn't need it because I'll show you how to do most of it in the video, though I'll only do part of it. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the final. I'm going to run it. And this is what it looks like. Okay, I made it very large. It won't look that large automatically for you. So that's what we're going to do. Good. Okay. Now I've typed part of this text: Plattsburgh City budgets, this line of headers, and then this first line of data. I think that's the only line of data I have. And this is what it looks like. So of course I have my normal HTML structure. I've given it an appropriate title. Here's the little bit of style you can add if you want to. If you add that style, by the way, if you want to know what happens, I'll show you. That little bit of style would put essentially the border. Every element in HTML has a border, as it has padding and as it has margin. And the border, if we don't tell it to have a color and a size, is invisible. But if we do tell it to have a color and size, all of a sudden it becomes visible. And in this case, the table and the table headers and the table data have given a border of a certain size in black. That's how come we can see them. So you might actually choose to do this, although there's lots of ways you could style a table in CSS if you actually were going to use them. Well, we haven't gotten to CSS yet. Here we go. So this is like a big header over the whole thing. That might be complicated, we'll wait on that. This is headers too of the individual categories, right? But let's do just the first real group of data. Now, how does this stuff look like now? It looks pretty terrible right now. It's just one paragraph. Why? You should know why. We've attached no structure to it, right? So, but I did give the whole thing a table. So table goes around the whole thing. Good. Let's start with this one. So everything here is a table row. And a table row. I think people sometimes get confused because we write them like this, one thing, then another, the next, and the next, which kind of looks like a column, but we always do things by rows. So it's going to be in the order in row. It's going to be 2010, 10 million, then 15%. And that's going to be the end of the row. And within every row, you either have table data or table header. Within a row, you either have table data or table header. And this is a regular row, so it's table data. And I'm going to copy and paste that. And this one too. Let's save that and run it. Okay, we've got those things in order. 2010, 10 million, and 15%. But so far, they're all jammed together, and it doesn't necessarily look that great. But remember, how things look would change with CSS anyway. I told you these are headers. Again, it's a row of headers, though, right? Everything is a row. Okay, so that's the row. But instead of table datas, like these are table headers. TH. And you might say, well, what difference is that? Well, it's going to make it bold, but remember, that's not the reason we're doing it. It's because the semantic meaning of this information, we're structuring information. The semantic meaning is it's a header, not the data. It's about the data, it's not the data. So I'm going to save that and run it. Okay, we've got year, total amount, and yearly change. How did it know to kind of line those up and make three things? Well, we only have three things in the row. So that's what it's going to do. If we had more things in the row, it would be more boxes, essentially. Although we don't see the boxes at the moment. Okay, well then this thing must be a table row also, right? Whoops. Let's grab that. And this must be the end of the row here, right? And maybe that's a header in there, right? But it's just one word, right? We can't break it up into three parts. It's just like one thing. Well, maybe we just put header around the whole thing. What do you say? Save that and run it. Okay, something's wrong here, right? What's happened is it's tried to put this entire section, this entire header, into the first item, the first row. I'm sorry, the first column. Because it says in this row it only has one item, but in these it has three. So it's the first one in that row, so it must be take up the first part of that row, become the first column. But we want it to span across all three of them, right? So we have to do something else. We have to do a call span. This is an attribute to a header or a data. In this case, it's going to be a header. So an attribute means it goes inside the first tag. It's going to have a special name. That's the function is call span. Equals, as usual, after equal sign, we always have quotation marks. And how many columns is it going to span? It's going to span 3. So now it goes across 3. Why are these look like they're a little off? They're centered. That's just their nature as table headers. Table headers are always centered, but the data will continue. If you continue to work, you would end up with something like this, which is what you're going to be doing. Okay, so you can do the additional rows on here, 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 and here to finish it up. And if you want to, you may also add that little bit of CSS to perk it up and let us see the individual pieces.